Hare Krishna. We welcome all of our YouTube live listeners, all of our Facebook live listeners to the session 29 of Sri Bhagavatamrita. Welcoming each and every one of you, our humble obeisances to all of you. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with some invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamanine Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatra Dharana Paraha Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanatha Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Niti Namine Nama Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaura Katha Dhamadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachalam pangur langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurung Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. We welcome our wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. Welcome each and every one of you. So before we start today's session, session 29, we would like to thank all of our participants for the quiz from yesterday's session. So from YouTube, we have Divyangi Lalita Mataji, we have Shweta Manjari Mataji, we have Vijeta Arora Mataji, and we have Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu. Thank you all for participating in the YouTube for the quiz. And from Facebook, we have Barshana Chitra Mataji, we have Shweta Surya Narayanan Mataji, Divyangi Lalita Mataji and Prem Vikas Prabhu, Ranjani Gopika Mataji and Meena Mataji. So again, congratulations to all of you. And today we will do session 29 where we are discussing Canto 5 from chapters 11 to 15. So today we'll discuss these chapters. So yesterday the session was concluded by Rahugan Maharaj asking 4 questions to Jarabharat. The 4 questions that were asked by Maharaj Rahugan to Jarabharat are the first one is, what is the most secure shelter within this world? Second, how can I advance in spiritual life? Third, if this world is not factual, why are we able to visualize the effects of the interaction of the world's elements? And the fourth one, the last one, is how is it possible that the soul, which is within the material body, is completely detached from the conditioning of the material body? So the third and the fourth question, the answer is found in this 11th chapter. And the question 1 and 2 will be in chapter 12. Very interesting way to solve this because the first and the second question is very spiritual in nature. And the third and the fourth questions are how to get to that spiritual level. So therefore, here in chapter 11, we will try to understand the answer to the third question, which is, if this world is not factual, why are we able to visualize the effects of the interaction of the world's elements? And we find the answer that Jadabharat is giving the answer to Maharaj Rahugan in text 4 to 10. Text 4 is saying, as long as the mind of the living entity is contaminated by the 3 modes of material nature, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance, his mind is exactly like an independent, uncontrolled elephant. It simply expands its jurisdiction of pious and impious activities by utilizing the senses. The result is that the living entity remains in the material world to enjoy and suffer pleasures and pains due to material activity. So, this is how, because of the influence of the modes of material nature, the living entity falsely identifies with this material world. And then the question comes, which is the fourth question, that how is it possible that the soul, which is within the material body, is completely detached from the conditioning of the material body? So the answer is that this chapter actually has only 17. It is a very, very small chapter. It has only 17 verses. So the answer to this fourth question lies from text 15 through 17, wherein the bottom line is mentioned. In text 16, it mentions that the soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the material condition of the body and wander within the universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by the senses, the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, enmity. It creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. So the mind is a storehouse of thoughts. Accepting and rejecting is going on with the mind. So the mind is the one that is getting affected by lamentation, by illusion, by attachment, by greed, enmity. All of these emotions are stored in the mind. And that is the reason that we are bound to this material world. It is the mind. It is a storehouse of desires, of thoughts. So all of our desires combined with our karma is keeping us bound to this material world. That is what Jadabharat is telling to Maharaj Rahugana. The last verse of this chapter is saying, text 17 is saying, very important verse. It's saying that this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. So you see, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says this, that the mind can either be the best of friends or it could be the worst of enemies. A trained mind, a mind that is controlled, is the best of friends. But an uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. The mind can make up and concoct such truths in our mind because of greed, because of, being influenced by greed, by being influenced by enviousness. The mind can concoct terrible stories which we will consider it to be the absolute truth. That is the potency of the mind. The mind is so expert in convincing us. If the mind is the worst enemy, if our mind is not trained, if it is not controlled, then the mind can convince us that we are the worst sort of, the most vulnerable victim, that everybody else has wronged us and we are the only right persons in the world. That is the potency of the mind. The mind can prove with very, very logical and factual arguments that how everybody else is wrong and I am correct, even though the opposite is true. The absolute truth is actually the opposite most of the time. Because we never want, an uncontrolled mind can never see the fault in oneself. We tend to see fault in everybody else, and I am the only one who is correct. And that is the cause of our bondage in this world. So here Jadabharat is telling to Maharaj Rahugana, he's telling in text 17, concluding this chapter by saying, O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the only way to control the mind. And herein, this particular phrase is the answer also to question 1. What is the most secure position for a living entity? The first question that Maharaj Rahugan asks, that what is the most secure position? This is the most secure position. The answer lies in here. The lotus feet of the spiritual master and the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the mind is controlled, Krishna Chaitanya, when the mind is controlled, and then we can seek proper shelter of the lotus feet of the Guru and of Krishna. And when we do this with proper care, proper attention, then we will achieve the most secure, the most perfect of all situations, of all positions. That will be the most perfect one. So this is how this particular chapter concludes, which brings us to chapter 12, which is entitled Rahugana Converses with Jadabharat. It's a continuation. So here in this chapter, Maharaj Rahugana, he is glorifying Jadabharat's exalted position. He realizes that what have I done? I have offended this great personality. Thinking him to be just a normal, a below normal person, thinking him to be mad, thinking him to be crazy. I have offended this personality. And he requests, Maharaj Rahugan is requesting him to please repeat the instructions and clarify the ideas which he could not understand. In text 1 to 4, he is again requesting him to give some more detailed explanation of what Jadabharat has already spoken. And Jadabharat is replying by explaining that all bodies are merely transformations of the earth. while the earth itself, as well as the entire universe from where the earth is coming, has no ultimate existence because it is temporary. So, beyond the temporary material world, the absolute truth can ultimately be understood as the Supreme Person Vasudeva, the cause of all causes. So Jada Bharat is giving the transcendental absolute truth to Maharaj Rahugan, that this is the most secure position for any living entity. Again, this is the answer to the first question of Maharaj Rahugan, that what is the most secure position? That to understand our position as the eternal constitutional part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our eternal position and the most secure position, which is explained in texts 5 through 11 of chapter 12. And then Jada Bharat then explains the secret of spiritual success, which is the association of great devotees. And he tells about his own previous birth, that how he used to be King Bharat, then he fell down, Bhava, he fell down and he became a deer in his second life. And then in his third life, he became as Jada Bharat. So this he explains from text 12 to text 16. Now this text 12 is actually the answer to the second question. The second question is, how can I advance in spiritual life? That is the question that Maharaj Rahugan had asked. So the answer to the second question, how to make spiritual advancement, the answer is given in text 12 and 13. And text 12 of chapter 12 of the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most important verses in this entire canto. Most important verse. It says, text 12, Rahu ganaita tapasanayati na chejyaya nirvapanad grihadva na chandasa naiva jalagni suryair veena mahatpada rajobhishekam. Veena mahatpada rajobhishekam, which means, my dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. There's no other way to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. This is the only way we can make spiritual advancement. Veena Mahatpada Rajobhishekam. And I have practical experience of this. You know, in our family, my father, His Grace Bhakta Jana Priya Prabhu, who is currently the director of Srila Prabhupada Samadhi Mandir in Mayapur Dham. Because of my father becoming Krishna conscious and coming to the process of devotional service, so many devotees around the world, in fact, and also our own family from both sides, maternal and paternal, they have all become initiated devotees. It's because of this one person. And this one person, my father, the changing point, the turning point in his life was when he was actually in the Middle East, where he was introduced to the Krishna consciousness movement. And our spiritual master, Srila Jayapataka Maharaj, used to visit. And in the Middle East, that city where my father used to live, we all used to live, there were beaches, very beautiful beaches. So one time when Jayapataka Maharaj came, they all went to the beach for a nice picnic, and they all were playing, frolicking in the waters. And then after some time, Jayapataka Maharaj came out of the water, and he was walking on the sandy beach. And he came and sat on, the beach chair. And my father, he just came, and he just collected the dust, the sand that was, stuck to the wet lotus feet of Jayapataka Maharaj. And he just, he had not read this verse, but I think it was just, he says that it was the direction of the Paramatma, that he just took the dust, he was clearing out the dust from the sole of the lotus feet of Maharaj, and he was putting it on his head. He was doing that. And that was the point of, that was a turning point in his life, where Krishna really, this particular line, Vina Mahatpada Rajobhishekam, that the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee makes such a difference. And because of this one person becoming a devotee by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, he became such a staunch Vaishnava. And, he was the one who made everybody else devotees also. And we also know how we felt blessed, like whenever, we see any sadhus, any guru, any of our guru vargas, when they visit our home, when they mercifully allow us to wash their lotus feet, we feel so fortunate that we are able to drink the water that has washed the lotus feet of these pure devotees. We've been really fortunate to wash the lotus feet of Srila Giriraj Maharaj, of Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj, of Srila Radhanath Maharaj, of Srila Jayapataka Maharaj. So many sannyasis. So, Veena Mahatpada Rajobhishekam. This is a statement that is actually true. It is factual. That spiritual life can really, we can make advancement not just in a, steadily, but in leaps and bounds, Srila Prabhupada says. So this is how, pure devotees really make a difference in our life. So therefore, this statement in text 12 of this chapter, that there are many other processes, there may be many other processes to understand the absolute truth. But the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Then absolute truth. You see, we cannot demand from Krishna, I am chanting 16 rounds, you better appear in front of me. We cannot make that demand to Krishna. Krishna has to appear out of his own free will. And when will Krishna make his appearance? When another pure devotee who has already made Krishna appear in their life, when they recommend us, then Krishna will appear. He will then manifest himself to that devotee. So this way, we, to achieve Krishna, to make sure that we can really welcome Krishna in the region of our heart and make him a permanent resident of our heart, so that Krishna can never leave our heart and go anywhere else. There are 4 things that we can do that is mentioned here in this chapter. It is mentioned from verses 12 to 16. It is mentioned that we must approach a pure devotee who never talks anything about worldly topics. We must approach, we must seek the mercy of a pure devotee. Krishna Chaitanya. Excuse me. Second, we have to achieve the mercy of the devotee by serving him. It's not that we just stand in front of a pure devotee. No, we should serve. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. We have to serve the guru. We have to serve the pure devotee. The third point, never envy, never neglect or try to surpass one's spiritual master. Always be subservient. We can question the spiritual master. Pariprashnena, we can. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, when you approach a spiritual master, you can question them. But how is the questioning done? Not in the mood of a challenge, but submissively. Pariprashnena sevaya, in a mood of submissive service attitude, we can question the spiritual master. And fourthly, we must accept the association of devotees and reject the association of non-devotees. This fourth point is the conclusion of chapter 12. Accepting favorable association and rejecting the unfavorable association of non-devotees. That is how we can make spiritual advancement. So now all four questions of Maharaj Rahugan have been answered by Jadabharat so beautifully. So that brings us to chapter 13, which is talking about further talks between King Rahugan and Jadabharat. Further, they are going on to discuss more. So here in this chapter, Jadabharat actually becomes very kind to King Rahugan because of his submissive nature. It is mentioned that because Rahugan was listening to Jadabharat so submissively, he was asking questions, but in a very submissive way. So Jadabharat became very, very happy. You see, what Krishna has told in the Bhagavad Gita is coming to life through these stories. This is the history of our Bhagavad Puran. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that when the Guru sees that we are rendering submissive service to the spiritual master becomes very pleased. And whatever he has knowledge within himself, he automatically imparts it to the disciple by being pleased with the devotional attitude of the disciple. So here similarly, Jadabharat was so pleased with Maharaj Rahugan, and in fact to have special mercy on King Rahugan and to disassociate him from the material world. He again spoke figuratively. He gave another story. Just like how Narad Muni had spoken to King Prachina Barhishat, a nice allegorical story. Similarly, Jadabharat here is giving a nice allegorical story to Maharaj Rahugan. He speaks figuratively about a forest of the material world. He explains that this material world is like a great forest in which one becomes entangled due to association with material life. In this forest, there are plunderers who are considered to be there are 6 plunderers who are our 6 senses. Now we know 5 senses. The mind is considered to be the 6th sense. So the person is inflicted, as soon as he enters this forest, 6 plunderers come and take away everything, as well as carnivorous animals like jackals, wolves, and lions. Very harsh statement. We'll understand who are jackals, wolves, and lions. In the next chapter, the explanation is given. They come, these carnivorous animals are attacked. They attack this living entity who are always anxious to suck the blood from the head of the family. In text 2 of this chapter, Jadabharat is telling Maharaj Rahugan that in this forest of material existence, there are 6 very powerful plunderers. When the conditioned soul enters the forest to acquire some material gain, the 6 plunderers misguide him. You see, we are dragged by our senses. So we are not given proper direction by our senses. Therefore, we are misguided. So thus the conditioned merchant does not know how to spend his money, and it is taken away by these plunderers like tigers, jackals, and other ferocious animals in a forest that are ready to take away a lamb from the custody of its protector. The wife and children enter the heart of the merchant and plunder him in so many ways. It's very harsh. coming to think of it, that how a materialistic person, for a materialistic person, wife and children are called as plunderers. They suck the blood out of the head of the family. I want this, I want that, give me this, give me that. And they don't end up being happy even after the head of the family is providing all of this. They're always complaining, always nibbing, always cribbing. Why? Because they are never satisfied. Their greed is so high. That is the example of a normal karmi family. Please understand this, that although this is like the naked truth of the material world, it may seem very harsh that, oh, this is not how we respond. Please remember that this is not talking about aspiring sadhakas. This is talking about people in general who do not have any kind of Krishna in their life. They don't have any sort of God consciousness. That's the example, Jada Bharat is giving here to Maharaj Rahugan. So the forest plunderers and the carnivorous blood-sucking animals, they combine to exploit the energy of a man within this material world. In this forest, there's also a black hole covered by grass into which one may fall. In the forest, there are, pit holes that are dug to capture big animals. So they're nicely covered by grass so that the animals can't see. And therefore, this kind of merchant, the living entity, falls into such pit holes, coming into the forest and being captivated by so many material attractions. One identifies himself with this material world, with society, with friendship, with family. Having lost the path and not knowing where to go, being by the animals, and also victimized by many desires, that such a person really suffers. He works so hard within the forest and wanders here and there. He becomes captivated by temporary happiness and becomes aggrieved by so-called distress. He just simply suffers in the forest. And sometimes he's attacked by a snake, a big, huge python he can be getting attacked by. And due to the snake bite, he loses consciousness and becomes puzzled and bewildered about discharging his duties. He's attacked by various diseases. He is, by lamentation during summer and winter time. Thus, one within the forest of the material world suffers the pains of material existence, expecting to become happy. You see, because the living entity, they always by nature are looking for happiness. So expecting to be happy, the living entity changes his position from one place to another. But within this material world, one can never be happy. Being constantly engaged in material activities, he's thinking, oh, if I take one more step, I'll become happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. But he's never getting happy. He's always disturbed. He forgets that one day he has to die. And he suffers severely being illusioned by the material energy. He still hankers. He keeps hankering for material happiness. In this way, he completely forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's just constantly thinking, oh, about me. Where can I go? Where can I get happiness? What can I do? What can I do? So, listening to this whole analogy, Rahugan Maharaj was really shaken up. He was really shaken up. And then in chapter 14, Maharaj Rahugan is asking Jada Bharat that, you told me this entire story. Please tell me, who is all this referring to? So then Shukadev Goswami is explaining it to Maharaj Parikshit, that who did who refer to in the allegorical story given by Jada Bharat. So Shukadev Goswami replies that a merchant going into the forest to acquire goods and earn money is like the greedy conditioned soul who enters this material world. In the forest of material existence, the 6 plunderers are compared to the 6 senses, and family members are, like the jackals and the carnivorous animals. So despite, it's called, this the snake, we talked about the snake getting bitten, that is like the sleep, he's overcome by sleep. And then he even takes to maintaining himself by, he thinks that if he exploits his dear relatives and he doesn't mind giving them any kind of trouble, just like how he is exploited, he actually thinks that he can also exploit others, because that's the state of frustration that people are in. So he has forgotten his relationship, how to really get proper happiness. He has forgotten his basic relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, in his misery, he seeks pleasure, imagining his father or grandfather, and he thinks, oh, now I have grandsons, I try to get happiness from them, but he is still not getting happiness. The performance of his children's marriages, it is said that they are like big hill which is actually covered with thorns, and he must cross over that. He thinks, that doing the children's marriage, he will be happy, he will get position in society, people will glorify him. It doesn't happen like that. When he's performing his children's marriage, people end up criticizing. So it's like going across the hill, it's climbing the hill. It is a difficult journey anyways, but that hill also has thorns on its way. That's how miserable the living entity becomes. And he becomes so angry, so disheartened because of this entire horrible turnout of events in this material world. So this text 46 is the conclusion of this particular chapter. That, so Jada Bharat, when he was giving this allegorical story to Maharaj Rahugan, it is said that Maharaj Rahugan, after understanding this entire thing, he said, no way, I don't want to be that merchant. I would rather want to just take the dust of your lotus feet, my dear Jada Bharat, please. You give me the mercy so that I can understand Krishna, so that I can engage myself in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, it is said that Maharaj Rahugan was pulled out. He was just pulled out. He was snatched out by Jada Bharat, who was, Maharaj Rahugan was, in the deepest, darkest well of ignorance. And Jada Bharat just pulled him out by his beautiful narrative instructions and established him by giving him the path of Krishna consciousness, by giving him devotional service. So here, text 46, Shukadev Goswami is making this concluding statement. He says that devotees who are interested in hearing and chanting, in Shravanam and Kirtanam, regularly discuss the pure characteristics of Maharaj Bharat and praise his activities. If one submissively hears and chants about the all-auspicious Maharaj Bharat, one's lifespan and material opulences certainly increase. One can become very famous and easily attain promotion to the heavenly planets, or attain liberation by merging into the existence of the Lord. Whatever one desires can be attained simply by hearing, chanting, and glorifying the activities of Maharaj Bharat. In this way, one can fulfill all his material and spiritual desires. One does not have to ask anyone else for these things, for simply by studying the life of Maharaj Bharat, one can attain all desirable things. Now, point to be noted is that Shukadev Goswami is saying that whatever we desire, we can get by simply listening to the story of Maharaj Bharat that we have been listening for the past 10 chapters. The exemplary, glorious life of Maharaj Bharat. That we could get fame in this material world, we can get opulence of this world, we can get promoted to the heavenly planets, we can merge into the impersonal Brahman of the Lord. So these four things are possibilities. But there is another possibility also. If we desire to, then we can get pure devotional service to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and to the lotus feet of the spiritual master also. That Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. That this is what Bharat Maharaj's story can give, that whether whatever we desire, whatever we truly desire, our heart's desire is fulfilled by simply listening to this glorious life of Maharaj Bharat, which concludes in his conversation as Jada Bharat with Maharaj Rahugan. We come to chapter 15, which talks about the glories of the descendants of King Priyavrata. So this chapter, again, it's got a lot of lot of descendants' names, lots of names, lots of people who they got married to, and many, many other things. So we'll just try to see some important points here. Just the table, the genealogical table of the descendants of King Priyavrata are mentioned in this chapter. So the descendants of Bharat Maharaj to Pratiha, who was a great preacher, are described from text 1 to 4. Pratiha's descendants to Viraja, and especially the great king Gaya, is glorified between text 5 to 16. So-called followers of the Vedas who do not follow the parampara are bogus, and their association should be avoided. Srila Prabhupada says in one of the purports from text 1 to 4, he says that, those who are just concocting their own philosophies or who are making up different kinds of, education, they should just be rejected and avoided. While one who has realized Krishna is the bona fide spiritual master and preacher. So this is especially talked about of the character of Maharaj Pratiha, who was the descendant of Maharaj Bharat. So a king becomes glorious when he satisfies all the citizens and through his good qualities pleases Krishna and the Devatas and thus brings prosperity to the earth. Those who come directly from Krishna are, like this way, those kings who are, established in this way, they are not only called as Rajarshis, but they're also called as Mahapurusha. Because these kings, in the true sense of the word, they are actually representatives of Krishna. Because they're establishing the principles that have been established, the dharma that has been established by Krishna, they act as the proper representatives of such dharma. The king's responsibility is to satisfy the citizens, and Maharaj Gaya, he's the one who is the most, he was also called the Mahapurusha, because he so perfectly represented Krishna, and he was the, real well-wisher of all of his citizens. So the good qualities of a king allows to bring prosperity from the earth for the use of the citizens, just like how Maharaj Prithu did it. So an expert king always satisfies all the citizens. Everyone is very, very happy in such a kingdom. So all living entities are pleased with a devotee when Krishna is pleased with him. So like this, the king Gaya, he had some 3 sons who were, of the name Chitraratha, Sumati, and Avoradhana. Then their descendant is Maharaj Viraja, and he had 100 sons and 1 daughter. And out of the 100 sons of Maharaj Viraja, Shatajit became very, very famous. So text 16 is the last verse of this chapter. From text 11 to text 15, some of the chapters are very few verses. Like this 15th chapter has only 16 verses. And this 16th verse, it says that there is a famous verse about King Viraja. Because of his high qualities and wide fame, King Viraja became the jewel of the dynasty of King Priyavrata. So he was one of the most famous ones. And, King Viraja, He was actually just like Lord Vishnu by his transcendental potency, and he was blessed by the Devatas in this way. So he was a real, another like a Mahapurusha, just like King Gaya, one of the descendants of Priyavrata. Even King Viraja became a Mahapurusha, like an exact representative or a perfect representative of Krishna. So here are the glorious descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata. We end with Shatajit. We come to Shatajit as being the son or one of the sons of Viraja, King Viraja. So that brings us to the conclusion of chapter 15. From tomorrow, we will start, sorry, not tomorrow, from Monday, next session, we will talk about the description of Jambudvipa. Very, very beautiful description of Bhuloka is given there. And it will just open our consciousness to a totally different realm. So please stay tuned, and we will look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Before that, if there's any questions, comments, or reflections, we can take that now. And we are just waiting on the quiz questions, but if there's any questions, we can take that now. So we have 4 questions for quiz today. To whom is the absolute truth revealed? Second question, which quality of Maharaj Rahugan made Jada Bharat happy? Third, what are the 6 plunderers in the who are the 6 plunderers in the forest? Fourth, what is the tax exacting government compared to in the forest of material enjoyment? So please share your answer to these questions. We have a question from Raji Mataji. We need a separate session to hear the pastimes of our. Yes, we do need a separate session for that. Okay. Devika Mataji, where do we answer the questions? Very good question. After the session ends here on YouTube and on Facebook, on the same video, you can, in the comment section, you can give your answers. So we will be posting the quiz questions in the comment section of this particular YouTube video. So it's already just now posted. So you can comment over there, give your answers over there. Hope that answers your question. Thank you so much. So if there's no more questions, we will conclude our session here today. Again, we thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Thank you so much. We wish and pray that you have a wonderful evening for those of you in the US, and have a wonderfully blissful day for those of you joining from India. Okay, I have a question from Bhargavi. Hare Krishna, Bhargavi. Devotees on the path also have attachments, as we are not on pure platform. How to see this? Yes, we do have attachments. There is no doubt that we do have attachments, but at least we know that we are not supposed to have attachments. We are on the path of giving up our attachments. Srila Prabhupada gave a very beautiful example in this connection. He said, in India especially, we can see this, or even here, you can see when you turn on the fan is rotating at a very high speed. When you turn it off, it doesn't turn off in a minute or in a second. It doesn't turn off. It's slowly, it comes to a standstill. So Srila Prabhupada also used this analogy in explaining that this is how devotees who are engaged in proper execution of devotional service, they actually help, they actually give up their attachment just like that. The off button is already turned off. The button is already turned off. So we are in the process of giving it up. We are in the process of giving it up. So it is a gradual process. It does not happen over, it doesn't happen overnight. But if we just stick to the process and, do our Vaiti sadhana bhakti, then one day, yes, we will get rid of our attachment. Half of the problem is solved. In our young age, when we were in the school, I remember, I think most parents do this, but I was taught by my parents that read the question before answering it. Read the question, understand the question before answering. I remember my mother used to tell this all the time before I used to go for my exams. Read the question properly, understand it. Why? Why do our parents tell us this? Because when we read the question and when we understand it properly, half the problem is solved right there. We know the answer. But if we think that, okay, just by seeing a few words, sometimes we say, oh, this is the answer, and we don't even understand the entire question. And then we give a completely different answer. So that's why we should first understand what the question is. If we understand that we have attachments and we know that, yes, this is the platform that we need to raise ourselves to, then we will automatically, half the problem is solved. So I hope this answers your question, Bhargavi. Very, very nice question. Thank you so much. And we thank again all of our YouTube Live listeners and our listeners over Facebook Live. Thank you all so much for your online association. We look forward to seeing you again on Monday. Thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Vartaman Guru Vrinda ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Sitanath Premanande. Hari 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 Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you.